Okay, just a few words on cultural considerations with regard to um, formulating a diagnosis or arriving at a diagnosis of reactive attachment disorder. So, maybe this is relatively obvious that we have to consider, to the best of our knowledge, the cultural aspects of attachment behaviors and caregiving practices. Um, Attachment styles, the way attachment is expressed. People can have deep attachment, but express them in a way that's not, or I think it's more like a lack of expression or lack of what we consider physical expression of attachment, just as a for instance. So just we have to be really out of self-aware of that. Um, the line from the book from the DSM about caution should be exercised when diagnosed with reactive attachment disorder, cultural contexts in which attachment has not been studied. The other thing, just to I would add to that for all of us, is to be aware of cultures that we're not terribly familiar with, and how that may just to consider that, like if we're not familiar with that particular culture, we're not familiar with their attachment style, so just make sure that we're considering that, and maybe it's more of a provisional diagnosis until we or get to know that that child better or that family better. Just things to think about. um, the other thing about, and certainly, if you have the opportunity, work in a setting where you're working with refugee or migrant children or families, that having to having to continue two things, having to continuously relocate seems to impact attachment styles. But also, if you live in a place of where the level of trauma, by almost anyone's measure, would be significant and chronic, um, that can also impact the attachment, the level of attachment, and how attachment is expressed. And so, and this can be, and I added this here as you can see in the text. Um, if you are working with refugees, particularly from, the parts of the world, some of those being in the news continuously, others not, surfacing in media very often, but there are distinct parts of the world where chronic war and chronic relocation, and chronic uh, war zone living, for lack of a better way to put it, is a way of life, and for some people in some parts of the world, that is all they've ever known. So, um, how do you differentiate that from trauma? That can be a challenge, but it's if just to know. I think the takeaway is that if you are working with, a community of people, or just a singular client or client family, and that is that the case, from their self-report or your knowledge of their history, to just be careful in the in attachment related diagnoses like reactive attachment disorder, because attachment and how attachment is expressed can be affected. So that's just a few words on cultural considerations with reactive attachment disorder.